Scrappin with Sheri. Today we're going to be doing virtual crop sketch number 3 from the April 2025 virtual crop. Now, I talked to you a lot about the feel of your papers and embellishments, and sometimes they don't have to match your photos. And I'm going to tell you, when the secret box came out, I was so excited because I felt like it was going to be perfect for a trip that my husband and I took to see Mama Mia. I was ecstatic because I thought, yeah, concerts, music things, all the stuff, it would be perfect. But as much as I tried to get those secret box papers to work with these photos, they did not work. So sometimes you just have to go with what you got rather than what you want to use. And I promise you, I so wanted to use the secret box for this, but I'm sure there's a time coming that it'll work. So I've pulled out lots of blues because that's what my photos have in them. Now, these blues, this, and this, came from the secret box of 2024 called Grand Times. I loved that secret box. I loved the colors in it. So I did pull those from it. I pulled this blue dotted from Something Blue just because this is a pretty color. I thought it might work with this. I don't know. And then this with the kind of film strip things across the top on the front and back. This one's got the shimmery film strips. This is from Scrap Happy 2.0. So I've pulled just several different things, and we're going to play with it and see what we can come up with. Now, I have gone ahead and developed my pictures into somewhat of the right sizings and orientations. So I'm going to lay them out first because I think that's going to help us choose which papers we're going to use where. Now, my little tickets were actually on my phone, but I developed those as these photos here. Here is where I did have one problem because I had 3 photos that I really wanted to use. And it's not really a problem because I am going to use them all. This only shows 2 here, so I've done 3 there. And then here I used the front of the program as this. I was going to put the whole program in there, but the whole program was really thick and it was mainly advertisements, not really anything related to our production per se. So I decided I didn't really need all of that. Now when I'm looking, they've done their journaling over here on the side. I think my journaling will go right here. So I'm not really concerned about this side area for journaling. So when I look, one thing I noticed right off the bat is these pictures are much lighter. So this might be a really good option to go behind those pictures right there. These pictures have a darker background. And I might pull that there, except that is so light, it really fades into my background I've got going on. But I could use the white there. And then I'm going to pull some of this over to here. And what I'm looking at is there's a stripe across here with a border on it as well. This stripe is only a 1-inch stripe. And I'm thinking that these little film strips may be good to go across the top of that to give us the feel of the show. So let's just start cutting and see what we end up with. I'm going to be using my 12-inch trimmer for this. And let me see where the 1-inch gets us on here because I don't want to cut right through the middle of a film strip. And that's what it's going to do. I think I'm going to make this a little bit wider. And I'm strictly doing that to get the 3 rows of film strip right there. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to trim off that tiny little edge right there. As soon as I say that, it's going to be really hard to trim it because it's so very skinny. But I got part of it off. And then let's make these. Oh, we won't even have to make 2 because it's going to go across. Never mind, I don't have to do that. Now this, I do want this design going horizontally across my page. And it shows me that this is a 10 by 8, the 10 being the longest part. So I need the 8 in height. And I'm just going to do that right now. And to make it 10, I just need to cut off a couple of inches here. And I'm going to cut them off of this side because this is going to go over there. I just keep some patterns the same. Not that it really matters across the whole sheet. And you could always use scraps to do this. So I've got my 2x8 over there, my 10x8 here. I need to cut a couple of inches off of this for the same purpose. It's going right on top of that other dark blue. That's going there. And then our next big thing is going to be this piece here, which is an 8x12. And I'm trying to decide if I'm okay with that white. I think it's going to be all right. So I need that to be 8 inches wide, which is really wide. And that should be all of our cutting on this one. So let's lay it out and see what we've got. There's not a lot to line up on this. So it's really just a matter of sticking it all down. As I'm looking at spacing, it's about the same spacing top to bottom, but that's with this extra border on there. So I need to lay those two out. And again, you can do the measurements. You've got an 8-inch here and a 1-inch there. And you could split that difference if you had cut yours exactly like they showed, but we didn't do that. So I'm just going to do a little eyeballing, a little maneuvering. And if it's not exactly the same top to bottom, that doesn't bother me anyway. Now I could go either way on this. I could leave it those lighter film strips, but I think I like a little bit of that color and shimmer in there. This piece of paper has been in my scraps, so it's a little wonky. And those pictures show up so much better being on there. And because we laid out the photos first, we knew that we needed a darker color here rather than a lighter. And some people would say, well, what will you journal about this? I think journaling catches a lot of people, and they just don't know what to journal, so they don't journal at all. Well, this will be easy enough because these tickets were a present from my husband for Christmas. I love Mamma Mia. I have the DVD of the movie of it, and I watch it a lot. We went to see it in theater several times because I like it. My husband, he just likes plays, so he's a good one to go along with me. But he also loves all the ABBA songs. So we like to sing along with this. We love the soundtrack. We both love music, so that helps tremendously. And we just thought it was fun. So when he kept asking, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? It was easy enough for me to say, oh, I want tickets to Mamma Mia. Because I love the music. And I'm just going to kind of center this. If you had developed your pictures 4x6 already before you put them on this layout, they're going to work perfectly because you've got lots of space here. My pictures are probably not quite even 3.5 by 5. They're a little bit smaller because of the digital. But 4x6 pictures would look awesome on this. And if my photos had a lighter background, I would probably go with something darker here. This white matting does give it a little bit lighter appearance, but the photos themselves are so dark, I feel like they really pop on this side right here. And then our last thing to add is going to be this leftover little piece on the side. And I just scooted this over just to kind of help us line it up a little bit better. Again, it's going to be all the way across your page. So I don't think anybody's going to measure and say, oh, you got that so crooked. But if measuring is a big deal to you, take your 0 centering ruler and line them up. Hey, look at that. And I am going to make sure that I put the same piece here that I put here, because this one has a little white edge. This one doesn't. This is just a touch wide, so I'm just going to tuck it under the edge there. And then according to our sketch, these two pictures just kind of hang off the side of that. Now, I could still go back and add a border maker cartridge or a border punch or something there. Music notes would be great here. But I'm thinking the music note border punch is really wide, and I didn't want to add more width there necessarily. So I don't think I'll add any border punches. Man, look how quickly that came together. Now I started playing around with embellishing a little bit. I've got my journaling done, and I'm just going to add that right underneath this picture. But in looking for embellishments, the first thing I did was to look in the Great Times papers, because a couple of these came from that, and I felt like that would be a good starting place. But in looking at their embellishments, we've got a little floral embellishment here, something here with the title, which we've got our picture there, and then a little embellishing here. Not a lot, actually. There's a lot of blank space on this page. Typically, I wouldn't like that, but I do think it's appropriate for this particular page. Now, I found this, and I thought that was nice. And I'm going to use a couple of foam squares to pop that up, just the together. I pulled that out of the Grand Times embellishments. And I also pulled the binoculars because my husband loves to take his binoculars to these things. And he even noticed, which I couldn't see, that the actors and actresses had microphones that came down on their foreheads. And that's what made it perfect when they were singing and dancing, so you didn't hear all the rustling sounds. So I thought that was pretty fun, a fun fact he shared with me. And then because of the nature of the pictures and because of these big flowers here, I decided to pull some old leftover flowers I had. And I'm just going to use those to anchor here. If I had had open space here, I would have done it there as well. And then I pulled some more blues. I just felt like keeping it kind of monochromatic on all of the coloring was good. These leaves are good because I can just poke them in and around just to kind of set that off a little bit. I did put this lighter blue up on the darker so you can see it a little bit better. But I do think just adding a little bit, not too much, is good for this layout. And I had a couple of little flowers too that I think I'll pop in there just for a little bit of extra excitement. So let's put these down, and I'm going to do foam circles on pretty much all of this, I think, just to make it a little bit more standy out. And I'm not going to put it on the whole leaf here. I just need a little bit on the end of that just to make it pop, because it's going to be coming out from under this big flower. And there's really no rhyme nor reason to what size foam pieces I use, foam squares, foam circles, whatever. I just kind of try to pick what's going to work best with what I've got going on. I do find that I don't use nearly enough of the large ones most of the time, so sometimes when I can use them, I do. I'm going to add that there just to break up the seam. That one's trying to come off on my finger, but I'm going to add it here again to break up a seam. And then just kind of throw this one down just for a little added color contrast there. And on this side, I'll pretty much recreate the same in some respects. I find that in these circles particularly, now these came out for a short period of time and they were gone, but I do love this size right here. I have to make myself use the smaller ones because they're harder to peel. If you're someone who has issues with your hands, I know those are hard for you. Now I can just put a giant one on here because it doesn't matter. And you see with embellishments, I don't put these foam pieces all over them. I don't think they need that many. And I'm just going to start with my biggest and then kind of add these in here and there. And as I'm doing this, I am looking over to this just to kind of see what I did there. It doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. But I do think the mirroring will look good. And then that one I'm going to stick there. And these two pages are complete. That is the virtual crop sketch number 3 from the April 2025 virtual crop. I hope you enjoyed it. And until I see you next time, happy scrapping.